this person is a predator, and he's one of several. And I have proof. It's not like I'm just making false accusations.
So in the middle of Mr. Perry changing up the scenes, he says, I want Jeffrey to be gay.
Got the whole world in his hand. Hey, I'm just sitting here on my porch just looking.
And he has a crush on his bully. That's not what I auditioned for.
What am I looking at? I'm looking to the hills from whence cometh my help. For my help, some of y'all know the rest.
It's a story time about how filming Meet the Browns was the most stressful and hardest thing that I've ever done in my entire life.
I just wanted to come on and just tell everybody, just be as calm as you can.
Mr. Perry, on the spot, starts rewriting the entire script. And the director is kind of standing on the side like, you better do it, because if not, they will fire you.
It started with a name that carries weight in Hollywood, Tyler Perry. Known for building an entertainment empire rooted in themes of family, faith, and perseverance, Perry has always projected an image of moral integrity. But now, his name is being pulled into a controversy that threatens to crack that carefully curated reputation. In a series of emotional social media posts, actor Braxton Demarco Wells, who once appeared on Tyler Perry's hit series The Oval, came forward with deeply troubling accusations that have set off a firestorm online. What makes these claims even more alarming is not just their content, but the context. They point not at outsiders, but insiders, at individuals within Tyler Perry Studios itself. The actor claims he was lured under false pretenses to Georgia for a role, and what followed was, in his words, a disturbing and manipulative experience. He named a high-ranking executive within the studio and called out Perry directly, accusing him of turning a blind eye. And just like that, a studio once synonymous with uplifting stories now finds itself at the center of a story that feels like anything but. But as you'll see, this is just the surface, because the details Wells revealed go far beyond a simple allegation. Braxton Demarco Wells isn't just another name looking for attention. He's a former U.S. Army veteran who says he came into the industry with hopes of building a second career in entertainment. In 2022, he landed a role on The Oval, a political drama produced by Tyler Perry that has drawn millions of viewers. On the show, Wells portrayed a member of a fictional cult, a role he now says was eerily close to his real-life experience behind the scenes. According to his account, the opportunity to appear on the series was not what it seemed. He alleges that he was flown to Georgia under misleading circumstances, suggesting that the job offer was a front for something much more sinister. Wells claims he was misled, manipulated, and ultimately targeted by someone in power. This wasn't a random encounter with a stranger. It allegedly came from inside the very company whose public face is built on values like integrity and faith. For Wells, the betrayal wasn't just professional, it was deeply personal. He says he trusted the process, followed the opportunity, and believed he was entering a creative space, only to find himself, in his words, caught in a nightmare he never saw coming. And while many would have stayed quiet, Wells decided to go public. But it's what, and who, he named next that took this situation to a whole new level. In a post that quickly caught fire on Instagram, Braxton Demarco Wells laid out a series of serious accusations aimed directly at Mark E. Swinton, the Senior Vice President of Scripted Programming at Tyler Perry Studios. According to Wells, Swinton used his executive role to cross serious boundaries and take advantage of his authority behind closed doors. The post was more than just emotional, it was packed with specific claims and bold language that left no room for doubt about the pain Wells says he endured. He described being manipulated by someone in a position of trust and power, claiming that what happened to him wasn't just unethical, but deeply violating. What shocked many was not only the allegation itself, but the way Wells framed it, as a betrayal of everything the studio claims to stand for. In his words, "You abused your position as vice president of Tyler Perry Studios, a company that claims to stand for faith, to commit unspeakable evil behind closed doors." He didn't stop there. Wells went on to call out the entire moral image the studio presents to the public, saying it was a facade, and that while Tyler Perry's brand promotes faith, compassion, and righteousness, the reality behind the scenes told a much darker story. The language he used was raw and spiritual, even invoking divine justice, warning that Yahweh Elohim sees all. For many, this wasn't just a personal testimony. It sounded like a declaration of war against a culture of silence. And yet, it was only the beginning of what Wells was about to reveal. While the allegations against the executive were already explosive, What stunned many was that Braxton Wells didn't stop there. He directly pulled Tyler Perry himself into the spotlight. In another post, Wells accused Perry of choosing silence over accountability, claiming that the media mogul not only knew what had allegedly happened, but made a conscious decision to protect his studio's image instead of confronting the truth. Wells didn't mince words. He said that Perry retained a predator in your house and helped cover it up, painting a picture of a powerful figure more concerned with reputation than justice. This wasn't a vague critique. It was a pointed message aimed at the top, suggesting that Perry's empire of morality and faith-based storytelling was built on a foundation that looked very different behind closed doors. The public nature of the accusation left many wondering whether this was a rare misstep by a usually untouchable figure, or a symptom of something deeper within the culture of his studio. For someone like Tyler Perry, who has become synonymous with empowerment and spiritual resilience, being called out for allegedly protecting someone accused of serious misconduct is not just damaging, it strikes at the core of his brand. And as well as accusations gained traction online, the silence from Perry's camp only fueled more questions. Was this simply a disgruntled actor lashing out, or was it the first major crack in the image of one of Hollywood's most carefully guarded public figures? Either way, the conversation was far from over, and the claims were about to take an even darker turn. The more Braxton Wells shared, the more disturbing his story became. He alleged that after trying to speak out, not only was he ignored, he was actively discouraged from going to law enforcement. In a shocking claim, he posted what he said were screenshots from his own civil attorney advising him to stay away from the police. According to Wells, this wasn't legal guidance. It was part of an effort to keep things quiet, hinting at a deeper web of control and intimidation. But the pressure didn't stop there. Wells stated that individuals connected to Tyler Perry's inner circle began monitoring him, making him feel unsafe and silenced while he was still trying to process his trauma. Feeling overwhelmed and unprotected, he said he fled the country altogether, relocating to Colombia in hopes of finding some kind of peace and security. He described himself as vulnerable, confused about his rights, and unsure of who he could trust. The combination of legal silence, surveillance, and isolation painted a terrifying picture of what happens when someone challenges a powerful institution from within. For Wells, this wasn't just about a bad experience. It was about surviving what he believes was a coordinated attempt to suppress the truth. And as the public started taking notice, his decision to flee the US only added to the urgency and mystery surrounding his claims. But there was still more he was ready to expose, including what he described as a legal trap used to keep him silent forever. In one of his most alarming revelations, Braxton Wells claimed he was forced to sign a non-disclosure agreement under what he described as extreme mental and emotional pressure. According to him, the NDA wasn't something he willingly accepted, it was something he was cornered into during a time when he was already in distress and unsure of his legal options. He painted a picture of being manipulated and silenced through paperwork, pressured by those around him to stay quiet about what he had endured. Even more unsettling, he alleged that individuals, including his own lawyer, used this agreement as leverage to prevent him from going public or seeking help from authorities. Wells described a world where the people meant to protect him, attorneys, industry insiders, and supposed allies, were instead working to contain him. They told me to take down the video, threatened me, and even my own lawyer threatened me while I was trying to go to law enforcement, he wrote. These statements turned what seemed like a personal grievance into what many now viewed as a potential cover-up with multiple layers. He claimed he had no choice but to post everything publicly so people could read and judge for themselves, insisting he would no longer be silent. The intensity of his language and his refusal to back down suggested he wasn't just seeking attention, he was making a stand. But Wells made it clear that he wasn't alone in his experience, and the next connection he made would deepen the controversy surrounding Tyler Perry Studios even further. As Braxton Wells' claims continued to echo across social media, he dropped another bombshell that linked his experience to a broader, ongoing scandal, referencing a fellow actor from The Oval, Derek Dixon. Just weeks before, Dixon had filed a staggering $260 million lawsuit, accusing Tyler Perry of inappropriate conduct, harassment, and retaliation, which sent shockwaves through the entertainment world. But what Wells claimed next raised even more eyebrows. He insisted that he had spoken out about his own experience long before Dixon ever came forward, yet his story was buried, overlooked, and dismissed. By making this connection, Wells wasn't just telling his story. He was suggesting a pattern of behavior within the studio and a culture of silence protecting those at the top. His comparison implied that these weren't isolated incidents, but part of a deeper issue that had been simmering under the surface. With both actors now publicly alleging serious misconduct tied to Tyler Perry Studios, the narrative was no longer about one man's trauma. It was beginning to look like a domino effect. The fact that two different cast members from the same show were stepping forward with serious claims made it harder to ignore and impossible to dismiss as coincidence. Whether or not the claims proved true in court, the court of public opinion had already begun its trial, and the pressure on the studio to address the accusations was building fast. Still, Wells wasn't done. He vowed legal action was on the way, and the consequences, he warned, would not be small. Determined not to be silenced, Braxton Wells made it clear that he intends to pursue full legal action. He outlined his plans to sue for emotional distress, legal malpractice, and what he referred to as serious misconduct by both the executive and those who allegedly tried to keep him quiet. In his posts, he appeared emotionally raw but focused, repeatedly stating that he will no longer be silent and that justice would be pursued by any means necessary. He emphasized that the trauma he experienced wasn't just personal, it was compounded by what he claims was a systematic effort to suppress his voice. And yet, despite the mounting attention his posts have received, Tyler Perry Studios has remained publicly silent. No statements have been made by Perry or Mark E. Swinton at the time of this report, which has only intensified public curiosity and speculation. Meanwhile, Wells' decision to share every screenshot, message, and detail on social media has turned his story into a digital archive of allegations, raising questions not just about the incident itself, but about how many others may have similar stories but are still too afraid to come forward. The longer the studio remains quiet, the louder the conversation grows, with online discussions now centering around whether Tyler Perry's image of moral leadership can survive these accusations. As Wells prepares for a legal battle and the internet continues dissecting every post, what once seemed like a single accusation is rapidly evolving into a moment that could have lasting consequences for the studio and its founder. What started as a social media post from a little-known actor has now spiraled into a full-blown controversy, shaking the foundation of one of Hollywood's most powerful production empires. Braxton Wells' allegations have exposed more than just personal trauma. They've raised serious questions about the culture inside Tyler Perry Studios, the silence that often follows high-profile misconduct claims, and the image that Tyler Perry has so carefully built over the years. Whether the legal system ultimately supports Wells' claims or not, one thing is certain: the story has struck a nerve with the public. The accusations, the emotional testimony, and the eerie silence from those in power have created a storm of speculation and distrust. And with another actor already filing a massive lawsuit against Perry himself, this may only be the beginning. Will Tyler Perry address the growing calls for accountability, or will continued silence speak louder than any public statement? As more voices step forward and new details emerge, viewers and fans are left with a troubling question. How much of what we've seen on screen reflects the truth behind the scenes?